All right, so now we have part 2. So we're going to look at our third example that I have here, which is negative y is less than the absolute value of x minus 3. Okay, so again, y has to be by itself, and if you notice there's a negative attached to it, so I need to divide everything by negative 1. Remember, this is technically a plus 0 here. There's technically a 1 in front of that absolute value sign, so you want to keep that in mind. And the other thing that you want to keep in mind is because I'm dividing everything by a negative, I have to think back to graphing linear inequalities that I do need to flip that inequality sign, okay? And then I have 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1, absolute value of x minus 3, and then 0 divided by negative 1 is just 0. So that's fine to just leave it as 0 there. Okay, so now I'm in a good spot. I'm going to graph this absolute value inequality. I'm going to go ahead and move that on, do it on the next slide. But one thing I would like to address is if you take a peek at the coefficient for the absolute value, it's negative 1, which is one step to knowing that I can translate. And also, the coefficient of x is positive 1, which is a must in order to be able to translate. So I'm actually going to go ahead and translate this because it does fit the criteria to be able to translate. So let me go ahead with my graph. And remember that we're going to graph y is greater than the negative absolute value of x minus 3. I just pulled that from here, nothing different. So I'm going to go ahead and translate, which means I need to move 3 units to the right from the origin. So I'm going to move 3 units to the right. I don't have to move up or down any. Now, this is negative, so because it's negative, I have to move 1 to the right and 1 down, and 1 to the left and 1 down. So always be aware of that. If you have that negative absolute value, it should be opening on the bottom. It should be opening facing down. So now I'm also going to take a peek at the inequality. It is just greater than, not greater than or equal to, so I am going to have that dashed line. Okay. And then finally, it is greater than, which means I shade above the vertex, and above the vertex is actually on the outside of it. Oh, gross, I crossed the line. Oh, man, that could be real bad. Let me fix that. So it is on the outside of the V, because shading above the vertex means that that the shading is on the outer edge of that V. Okay, so hopefully at this point you're feeling comfortable. It really is just adding one more step onto what we've already learned, meaning that we either have a dashed or solid line and that we have to shade. And really, truly, it's challenging yourself to be able to know, okay, when can I translate an absolute value in equation or inequality, and when can I not? When do I need to find that vertex and that left coordinate and right coordinate? One final thing that I want to do is a set of directions that say write the equation. Why did I say equation? Excuse me. Write the inequality from the graph below. Okay, so that means that you're given a graph. Oh, that was a little bit gross. Let me fix that. Okay, so you'll be given a graph. Let's see. Hang on one second, a little commercial break for you as I draw the graph that would be given. Okay, and now you have to write the inequality. So like this graph will be given and you have to write it. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I would only give you ones that would be like a translation kind of graph. Not ones like, you know, where you might have something like number 2 that we did where we had a 1/2 x. Okay, it'll always be something like examples 1 and 3. And so first of all, I'm going to do my y. I know that the shading is below the vertex. Okay, it's below the vertex, which means it's going to be less than. And it's a solid V, so it's going to be less than or equal to. I also know that it's pointing down, so that means that I have to have a negative absolute value, okay? And I'm going to have my x. Now, I move, so I got to focus on my vertex here. And I moved 1 unit right, so that means it's going to be x minus 1. And I moved 2 units up, so that's going to be a plus 2. And at this point, I have written the inequality from the graph. So you will have some of these to practice as well. But other than that, that's pretty much it for this lesson. It's pretty simple and straightforward, not as long as most other lessons, mainly because we're just tacking on one more kind of idea onto what you already know. So if you haven't figured it out already, a lot of the stuff this year will just keep building. So it's very important to understand the foundation because it's all going to come back. And you can ask my seniors who are in advanced math who took Algebra II last year, is that it all comes back. So you really want to make sure you know what you're doing because it's just going to all build on each other and all come back. And then we will work on the assignment tomorrow in class. So I hope you enjoyed.